Today I would like to talk about Redux and how you can use to manage state in your React applications. So basically what you want to do is take the boilerplate Hello World Redux app, React app, and install basically these three packages, which is React Redux, and the Redux logger. So once you have done that, let me kind of go an overview of how the Redux data flow works, and that should make it a little bit easy. Basically, we use a store, and it's essentially like a tree structure where you maintain the state of the application, and the application state can be changed by action creators, which basically call on the store method called dispatch, and then they send you an action which is essentially an object. And from the store you can call what are called reducers, which are essentially pure functions. They take parameter as the previous state and an action, and they return something called a new state. And essentially the store state gets passed down to the view, and the new view gets rendered, and when you have a click or a mouse, a new action might be created, and so on the cycle repeats. So let me just show you how we can go ahead and change this code. So I'm going to instead of having to type everything, I'm going to copy some code that in your top level index.js file in the boilerplate, and I will kind of explain you what it is. So basically what we have done is we have imported create logger from redux logger, and then we have imported create store and apply middleware from redux. So to create a logger is pretty straightforward. Logger is just creating a logger, and creating a store is also pretty straightforward. You basically supply a method, the reducer, which we talked about earlier. Right now I'm just going to not really have any parameters for now for demonstration, just say console.log reducer, and then we say apply middleware of logger. That way we can see in our console the actions that are being dispatched. To dispatch the actions is pretty straightforward. We take the store object and we call dispatch, and we specify an action like this. Just something to note for Redux, there you have to have type as one of the properties, and then in here you can name anything. I'm just calling it add counter to be able to show something, and in the payload you can have an object, but I'm right now just having a number 5 and 10. So let me just demonstrate to you how this works, and I'm going to open up the Chrome console so you can kind of see it. So here you can see the actions for dispatch. Here the previous state was initially undefined and action was an object. So this is the first object we got in the store. Payload was 5 and type is add count. And here the second object we got was payload was 10 and type was add count. So this logger is actually very nice. It can help you debug and see what's going on. So essentially, just to reiterate what we talked about, we did a dispatch with an action and from the store, and we called a reducer right now with no information or parameters. But typically, this parameter would be previous state and an action, and it will return a new state. So let's just do the second step, and I'll show you how the second step works. So let me go to my cheat sheet and copy the second step. It's basically copying the reducer function. So let's just change this reducer function here. So as we talked about, we have an initial state where count is 0 and an action is coming in. And action is basically an if statement. In this case, we are looking at action.type. If is add counter, basically we're returning a new state where we set counter to be state.count, the previous value, plus whatever was in the payload. So if we see this, it would cost the new state to be 5 and then 15. So let's take a quick look in our here. So you can say the previous state was counter was 0. Then we had an action of add count payload is 5. So the next state is going to have counter of 5 because 0 plus 5 is 5. And now the previous state is count 5. Action is add count payload is 10. So the next state is going to be count 15. So as you can see, this is working really well with this kind of flow. So we are sending a previous state and an action in the reducer function. And I'm just using one simple function here, and it returns a new state. So that's the step. Let me see what other steps we have. So the next step that I want to talk about is how you can essentially import a provider from React Redux and supply in the React DOM render change this. So let's copy this, and I'll show you the steps here. So first thing we want to do is get the provider from React Redux. And here where we are rendering the app, basically instead of just calling the app, we are calling the provider and provide the app as essentially an argument to that. And here we are just saying store is equal to store, so the app can have access to the store. So that really per se should just have the application still working, and you really not see anything big difference. But the main difference is that now the store is available through the provider to our app.js file. Let me just make sure it's working. Yeah, it's still working. I didn't make any typo mistakes or anything. So let's go to the next step where we would like to use this in our app. And I'm going to copy this and paste it in the right spot. So let's just see what I'm doing. So first, we had the export default app. We don't really need this. So I'm going to comment that out. I'm just going to replace where we had test name Gore Associates with this counter where we are going to use this information uh, for props counter. And let me just format the document. Okay, and just complaining that connect is not found, so we need to import connect basically. So let me go and find where it is. Import connect from Redux. All right, so we got that imported properly. And here you can see that the counter gets changed to a value of 15. And basically what it is that in our properties, we are getting something called a counter, and I'm just displaying it. But how did this counter get this property got this thing? So to do that, what I'm using what is called connect. And in the connect, I'm supplying a function map state to props. So remember we got the state, and on the state we had the count as one of the properties, and we are returning a new action basically here saying counter is going to be state.count, and we immediately call it with the app, which is our component. So basically what this mechanism is doing, the connect and this function is transforming the state into an action where I can access it as a property, and here you can access it as a property. So this is pretty much a fairly simple way in which you can use Redux with your React app. Thank you for watching this short screencast, and you have a great day.